Welcome back, everybody, to the show that we call Beat the Bookie. Not a YouTube exclusive, but Beat the Bookie. Joining me tonight for the Beat the Bookie show, my partner on the football shows, as always, Darren. How we doing, my man?
I'm all good, Niall. How are you, brother?
Not a bother at all. Good to have you on. You look happy. It's Friday. Work is more or less nearly done. I know you're a Saturday kid as well, but work is more or less done. We've broke the back of it. We're sitting back on a Friday. We're gotten over the hangover of the international break. We're sitting back having a drink in our favourite bookies, the Dynamo Podcast Network bookies. You're having a nice...
I'm having a nice little Jameson ginger ale and lime there with a few little ice cubes there, pal. I'm only delighted with myself here Friday night.
As I said, that needs an umbrella. I'm having a vodka and Coke, as always, but the vodka is from the Liverpool collection, so you can't beat that, so I'm keeping it real.
Just means it's going to mug you after you've had two of them.
yeah, you knock back two and then your wallet's gone. But that's neither here nor there. Welcome, this is your debut on Beat the Bookie, so glad to have you.
It is, yeah.
Should be a bit of fun. It's always a fun show. We get a few picks sent in for people. I'm sure you've watched them and stuff like that, and you have a bit of crack.
I have.
Let's run down, first of all, through the fixtures.
I'll just throw in now, this is me first Beat the Bookie, but I'm a religious gambler on a Saturday afternoon, you know. I have a little ritual that I go through, and I stick to it every single week. It's kind of like superstition, but that's just how I do my bets, you know.
Share the ritual.
I won't go into the bookies. Obviously, kickoffs are at 3:00 on a Saturday afternoon, and I don't go into the bookies or I don't look at prices or anything like that until after 2:00 till teams have been named. I'm one of those. I like to have a little look at teams in case fellas are leaving players out, you know, after European games or somebody's injured and you haven't heard about it in the grapevine. So I wait till after 2:00. And I either put the same amount into my Paddy Power account every Saturday, or if I go into a shop instead, I bet the same amount. I put €50 in a Saturday afternoon, and that does me for me football bets of the weekend. And if there's not left on the Monday, it goes into my pocket. And if there's not, that's it, done and dusted. You know, that's how I roll. I'm very like regimental with me gambling. You know,
a creature of habit, as they would say.
Yeah, I'm the kind of guy that likes to go on holidays and have the same dinner for 7 nights. You know what I mean?
In the same place.
In the same place.
Yeah.
But I like Jose. He's a lovely fella. And he does a great steak. And my missus pulling her hair out going, can we not have something else around here? No, get in and shut up.
The guy walking out of the tunnel putting the jersey on, eh?
You know? Yeah.
What's the one for goalkeepers? What would be the goalkeeper one now back in the day?
There's not necessarily one, but there's like, and so for me, like, and my missus will tell you this, everything had to match. Like from socks, shin guards, boots, gloves, like they all had to be a particular brand, whatever brand I was going with at the time. So like if I was wearing Adidas, I had to have Adidas gloves, shinnies and boots, and then I had to have an Adidas kit. Do you know what I mean? Now at the start of every season, I would buy like a new set of gear, new boots, new gloves, new shin guards, and then I'd buy like 2 jerseys, a couple of pairs of shorts and a few pairs of socks, but they'd all be of the same brand. And you'd be picking based on what was out at that time of year. Do you know what I mean? Like if there was, you know, sometimes after World Cup or European Championship, they'd launch these new collections and you'd buy bits and pieces, but it all had to be the one brand. And like I would sit in, like, this sounds absolutely bonkers, but goalkeepers are, you know, renowned for being nuts. I'd sit in on a Saturday night and I might spend 2 hours packing a bag, like this size of a Tesco bag, just with all my gear into it, you know? And I'd like take the gear back out again and check again and refold me socks and all. Like the intensity was on another level, man. It was fucking scary.
They say the look is 50% of the battle.
Or, you know, and then there was the other one with the always touching I always used to touch me 2 posts and me crossbar as well beforehand and just kind of ask them for a little bit of help. You know what I mean? Just say, listen, I touch me 2 posts twice each and me crossbar twice. And I just be like tipping it for kind of good luck and saying, right, you're with me today. And, you know, if you need to be 6 inches wider than you were before we kicked off, make that happen and keep it out. You know what I mean?
Typical Saturday night, so yeah.
It's absolutely, and even like on a Sunday morning, like you'd be going in, there'd be lads like looking in the boot of their car for where their boots were from last week, you know, and they'd be like, yeah, I can find one. I can't find the other one. And I'm like, it's all right. I've got 4 pairs here. And they're like, what the fuck is wrong with you? I'm twitching in the corner and all like this, the mad monk kind of inside the door.
The original Sports Direct.
Was mental, like, and she'd be like, because I literally could spend like you'd be buying in August maybe, and I could spend like 500-600 quid on gear from then to get me through the season. Now, all right, from there like 6 or 8 or 10 months, whatever, like you break it down, it's not massive, but I'd be spending 500-600 quid getting all the matching gear and getting the whole shoot match ready, and then fellas would look at you and go, have you played ball before, Paul? After a performance, but it was brilliant. Like it's amazing like how much you miss it afterwards, isn't it? I think this for me is an amazing substitute where we kind of have a bit of crack, yourself and any other lads that are on, and it fills the void of that missing a changing room on a Sunday morning or on a Thursday and on a Tuesday and Thursday, where you miss the crack with the lads and stuff.
Yeah, I still experience that changing room, but just at a different level now.
Yeah. Me young lads both play, but I've had to kind of take myself away from the action with them because I'm a nightmare. So rather than be a nightmare and let them see me being a nightmare, I just made a conscious decision that I'm not going to go and watch them play for now because I can't stay out of it. Like, my mouth is too big. Like, you've heard me on this, so I've just got this massive gob, and I just say, you know what, it's easier to let them go and enjoy themselves than me getting in their ear and hassling them over shit,
We have a big sign at the front of our club when you walk in. It's a brilliant sign. And what it says is, remember parents, it's their game, not yours.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Never works that. Never works.
No, but, and even like you're saying stuff and like it can be misconstrued or taken up the wrong way. Like my little lad was playing football one day and I shouted that there was a couple of lads getting in on him, and I says, someone give him a dig, as in like give him a dig out. And the other one beside me on the sideline was like, "Now we don't condone violence here, or anything like that." I was like, no. I was telling them to give him a hand. It was just something I would have said, give him a dig out like that. And the other one was like, "What? Can't be telling kids to punch each other." I'm like, no. So I think it was at that stage when I was like, you know what, maybe we don't belong on this side. With Karen and her oranges.
Yeah, I don't think in my lifetime I've ever bumped into as many parents that are all League of Ireland level. Like
oh, really?
They're all brilliant footballers, aren't they?
They're all unbelievable footballers.
They've all scored hat-tricks, 40-yarders, saved penalties.
The whole shooting match. And you'd be
amazed
amazed the people they've played with as well.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I used to play with Jeff Kennan.
Yeah.
Gas.
Yeah, I remember back in the day, I turned Joelsy inside out down in Markovic. Oh, yeah, really?
You're 29.
How did you end up being a shift manager in Tesco's?
Oh, Jesus.
Oh, I'll tell you, man.
Oh, brilliant.
Right, let's get into this. I'll roll down through the fixtures first because obviously we remind people of the fixtures so the bets make a bit more sense. Let's start Saturday, lunchtime, Watford versus Liverpool. Then the 3 o'clocks, Norwich versus Brighton, Southampton versus Leeds, Villa versus Wolves, Leicester versus your own United, Man City versus Burnley, Chelsea versus Brentford is the evening game, going to be a cracking game. Sunday is the day of lots of cash and a hard-earned win or a draw. Everton versus West Ham and Newcastle versus Spurs. And then we round it out on Monday night with the visit of Patrick Vieira to the Emirates, Arsenal versus Crystal Palace.
It's a good weekend of football, isn't it?
It's a brilliant weekend of football without a shadow.
Yeah, it really is, man.
What did you make of the comments today from one Ben White, who turned around and said that he doesn't watch football and he wouldn't know anything about Patrick Vieira?
It's hard to believe, isn't it, that you could, say anything that ridiculous out loud. Like I'd be the complete opposite, as I told you. Like everything for me was intensity, and like I'd be the guy that was like 2 weeks time. We're playing against such and such a team, and like I'd be down watching that game on a Wednesday night to watch what side their striker put his penalties, and do you know what I mean? I'd be absolutely living and breathing stuff like that. You might nip down and watch their Saturday side just in case one of the Sunday boys was injured and they brought anyone in who you didn't know. Like that's where I was at. And you hear a Premier League and an England football, and he's like, don't know who Patrick Vieira is. Like, what's his story? You're kind of thinking, Jesus, it's either really, really disrespectful, or he's just a bit of a different fish, is he? Maybe.
I don't know. I wonder is it a setup to wind Vieira up a bit? Maybe. Surely he knows who Patrick Vieira is and like the history. I mean, if you're going to join a club, surely you look into their history. And I mean, if you look into Arsenal's history, who stands out head and shoulders is Patrick Vieira.
Mad, like it really, really is. I thought, would Vieira be wound up by that? Hardly. You know, I'd say there's got to be a little bit of tongue in cheek, hasn't there?
I think so, yeah. A certain Irish midfielder used to wind them up doing less.
He did, but he was winding them up in knowing that he was going to have to come up against them on the pitch. Like Ben White, he's not going to get stripped on Sunday and get changed and come on or on Monday night for Palace, you know. So I think he's safe enough there, isn't he? Although you wouldn't put Anton past Vieira, let's be honest. You know.
He could run onto the pitch and give his own players a few platters.
James McCarthy, you're having a stinker. Get off, I'm coming on. You know.
Yeah, I'm surprised they didn't sign him as player manager.
Player manager, yeah.
Let's get into some of the picks that have come in. We didn't get a lot of names behind these this week, but we got some interesting picks there. Starting out with a Merseyside double, Liverpool and Everton both to win is 3-1.
Yeah, it's not a bad bet, as in price wise it's decent, but it's gonna be difficult enough to get it up, I think, isn't it?
I'd say, yeah, because they're both tough games.
Now listen, we might look at the end of the weekend and go, oh, that was handy enough, 3-1, which always happens. You know, you look at something and you think beforehand, I kind of look at you know, maybe a makeup of a bet, you think, oh, I'm not sure. Then you put something together and it doesn't go your way, and then what you looked at originally did go your way and you didn't put the money down, you know what I mean? So it can be tough, but I think that Everton West Ham game, it's tough to call a winner there. Really, really tough. You know, all three results are on the table. And if I'm honest, and I'm looking at bets and stuff like that, I know we say all three results are always on the table, but at times you're kind of thinking, are they really? Do you know, or you want to keep things as leveraged in your favor as possible, you know?
Absolutely. Now tell us this, you gave us an insight into your betting habit, let's say.
Yeah.
Do you normally avoid the early kickoff, or does that matter to you?
Yeah, no, I always avoid it just because I'm in work on a Saturday morning, and
even if it's your own team. Yeah,
absolutely, always avoid it. Never have a bet on it. I love the 3 o'clocks. Absolutely love the 3 o'clocks. I finish work usually about 2:30ish, so I'm just out in time. I'm kind of arriving at the house just after kickoff, and I've obviously got my bet on, so you can come home then, and you know, the kids are running around and whatever, and you've got Sky on in the background, and you're just like keeping a little eye on things. And the eldest guy, he's 13, you know, so sometimes he likes to have a bit of input into the bet, you know. He might say, oh, Dad, go for this one, I go for that one, you know. But we regularly be counting down goals, you know, where you like need 2 goals for X amount of money, need 1 goal, need a goal. I think I needed a goal. I do love a result on both teams to score bet. Now, it's quite difficult to get up because I'd usually be going with 4 teams for the win and all 8 teams to score, right?
It's tough
tough bet, but like I'm probably doing like €10 on that. But like most of the time,
it's a fun bet as well.
It's a great bet. It's a great bet, you know, because it means that early goals and stuff like that, if they go on the wrong way, you're not thinking, oh, Jesus, how am I getting, you know what I mean? You need everyone to score. So you do, because I mean, if it's result and both to score, like in 4 games, you need minimum 12 goals. So I'm looking at it that way, and I'm counting down. I'm like, right, how many do we need? And I think twice since the season kicked off, we were 1 goal away from, you know, winning nice money. The last kick of the game is we're down at Birmingham, and Birmingham are 3-1 up or 3-0 up, and I need the other team to score a goal to win me 5 or 6 grand, maybe. You're like, come on, come on, Blackboard, let's go, like this, you know. And it's good crack, like, you know. That's what Saturday afternoon is for me, anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's get into another one. Leicester versus Man United. Leicester to win and both teams to score 9-2.
Yeah, I think it's a great bet, man. I think it's a great bet. Really, really do. Obviously, United are going in without their first choice centre backs. So you're going in with Boy and Lindelof. As we said during the week, Boy is either going to be a 9 or a 2 and nowhere in between. So if he has one of those bad games, he could be 92. If he has one of those bad games, you'd fancy Leicester to get 1, maybe even 2, because we've an error in us at the back at times. I suppose sometimes when you're without a couple of players like that, the boys ahead of them though can have a little look and go, do you know what? We could be in trouble here. We need to go out all guns blazing and get a couple and make sure we outscore the other guys. Do you know what I mean? A game like that, United game, I might be looking for an over. You know what I mean? Maybe a, 2.5, 3.5 or over in the game type thing, So you can hedge your bet. So you're not worried where the goals go in once they're going in type thing, Leicester haven't been great at the back yet this year. United always cough up a goal or two. And I think it's going to be one of those games that you score, we score type thing, almost like a game of basketball. So I'd be looking at like probably over 3.5 in that game. And then maybe even pick out a booking or something to stick in, with some of the build bets you can do now. Yeah. Stuff like that. And always looking at little ways that you can bump up the bet and make it a little bit better. What are you talking about? Ronaldo to get a couple of shots on target, Luke Shaw to be booked. They're almost dead certs most week, aren't they?
Absolutely. This is one that gave a little bit of debate, didn't it, when we were on the Premier League preview? As we should say to our viewers as well, don't forget to check out our Premier League preview that released today for match week 8. And also we did, myself and Craig did a Watford Liverpool preview as well that released today. So check that out.
It's nuts. We obviously did the preview and I watched it back this morning myself. And the kids were at home and they were like, is that you on that telly? I was like, yeah, that's me on the telly, and they were like, that's a bit, but I don't know what it says about me that I was watching my own performance. Like, it's a bit strange.
It's fun when you put it on though and walk out of the room and don't say it.
Yeah. And then say nothing. And they're looking and they're like, Dad's on the telly. What's going on here, And I had the mirror thing going on with the TV, so it was obviously I was throwing it over to the TV,
Yeah.
And they were kind of like, Dad, what are you doing on the TV? And I was like, I was there earlier, and they're looking at you going, what? You haven't left the bedroom, man. What's
Jeff Stelling and the boys asked me on. You have to get that Sky Sports studio background for next time.
Get the backgrounds up.
Really, really muzzle them up. Like, here's one that generated debate the other night on our preview show: Southampton versus Leeds. Both teams to score and finish with a draw, 4-1.
Yeah, like it's very, very plausible. Very, very plausible. Like I did say I think Leeds, will squeak a clean sheet like they did in the last game. But you wouldn't be surprised to see a 1-1 draw or a 2-2 draw. I think 2-2 is probably a little bit of a stretch because I don't believe there's enough goals in them for that. But again, I'm there to be proven wrong. But I think 4-1 for a score draw is pretty good price, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
It's a nice little one to put into a bet, isn't it? Put into an accumulator. Yeah. I mean, 4-1's a lovely little price if you're able to put 3 or 4 bets in there and you can build it up to something nice. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Here's one you'll enjoy. You were only touching on it there a few minutes ago. Arsenal versus Palace, over 2.5 goals and a penalty to be scored, 4-1.
Over 2.5 and a penalty to be scored. I think the over 2.5 is okay. The penalty, I suppose, that's where the pot luck comes in, isn't it? Really.
And then to be scored.
To be scored because they're 2 decent keepers, Ramsdale and Guaita. They're very good, 2 big lads, nice reach on them for getting balls out of them corners with penalties, they make that goal look really small. Listen, it's not a bad bet at all. I suppose hindsight only tells us what a bad bet is after this, doesn't it?
Yeah, this is 1-1 going into the last minute, and Saha gets taken down by Ben White.
Who's still wondering who Patrick Vieira is.
Yeah, and then he finds out very quickly when Vieira does that run down the sideline when the 2-1.
Doing the Jose Mourinho. Yeah.
So it's kind of like a fun bet that you could throw a few quid on. As we say to people, all these bets on this show, this is a fun show. These are fun bets. Don't be gambling your mortgage. Don't be gambling your
not at all
your ESB bill, your food bill, or any of that. Your kids' children's allowance or whatever it is. Don't be gambling any of that. It's a bit of fun. Always gamble responsibly and have a bit of crack and enjoy it. Don't go overboard.
I suppose that's something where I myself would say I limit myself to a certain amount of money. Now, whether it's whatever it is, 20 or 50, that's what my limit is. And I go, when that's gone, there's no more money going in or anything like it. So, and you can be accountable like that. I can turn around and say to ourselves, like, I stuck 50 on the football and that's the end of it. You know what I mean? Whereas if I'm going, I stuck 100, I stuck 150, she's like, what do you know what I mean? So you got to be careful with things. It's a very slippery slope for lads, and so just be careful, lads.
Yeah, it's like a good night out. When the bottles are all empty, it's time to go home.
Yeah, 100%, man.
Here's an interesting one for you. London accumulator. Chelsea, West Ham, Tottenham and Arsenal all to win 14 to 1.
I was going to say that's going to be a decent price, isn't it?
It's a decent
14.
Bet. It's not a bad bet either, is it?
Oh, there's a lot in it. There's a lot in it. Yeah. Well, you've Brentford thrown up a surprise with Chelsea, yeah? Now, a surprise could be a draw because, Liverpool found out it's not an easy place to go, right? You've Tottenham evading the big bounce that Newcastle are going to get from obviously the money coming in and stuff like that. It may be being one of Brucey's last games. You've Palace going to Arsenal. Vieira going back there looking to try and nick something, certainly a point anyway. And then you've West Ham away at Everton, if I'm right.
Moyes going to Everton,
Moyes going back to Everton and at Goodison Park. There's a lot in that for me, man. I'd probably be veering south from that one, but listen, hopefully someone, whoever's come up with it has a few pound on and it might come up,
I'll tell you one thing, do you know what might be a good bet for that if you did 4 draws?
Yeah, see, I think that's a much better bet.
That'd be a much bigger price.
Personally, and a much bigger, I was gonna say a much bigger price as well.
Let's check
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, another one that's come in the Saturday afternoon treble. Man United, Aston Villa, and Brighton all to win 9 to 1.
That's a nice price, man. I think Villa are home against Wolves, if I'm right.
Yeah, correct.
I expect Villa to win. Wolves aren't super on the road. They picked up the win against Southampton, obviously, and they've started to score a little bit more now. The boy Jimenez looks like he's a little bit back to himself. Brighton are away
to Norwich.
Yeah, listen, that's very plausible, isn't it? Provided they can score goals, because that's their Achilles heel. And then United, United could pick up. It's not a bad bet, 9 to 1, man. If I'm honest, it's not a bad bet at all. I like that bet. That's one of the ones I like so far, I have to say now.
I always like putting in one of those handicap bets. So I always like doing them just for the fun, Again, not big money, but just fun to have a bit of crack. So this week,
I think my bookie probably thinks I'm handicapped putting on some of the bets at times, but that's a different day's work. He's delighted because he's putting the money in his back pocket either way.
Absolutely. Liverpool -1, Man City -2, and Chelsea -1. 10 to 1.
Liverpool -1, City -2 at home to Burnley.
Yeah.
And Chelsea -1 away to Brentford.
Yeah.
Yeah, listen, again, very doable, but there's a little bit in it for me, I have to be honest. Like, that means that Chelsea and Liverpool need to win by 2 goals.
Yeah, I always like Chelsea in a handicap bet because they're so stingy at the back. So they don't give a lot away.
Yeah, but if they give 1 away against Brentford, they've scored 3. Do you know? And that's the same with Liverpool. If Liverpool get 1 away, give 1 away, they've got to score 3, and that's where the likes of the handicaps for me they can become difficult. Like, 1 goal in the game is not a big deal for a team, but when you've got a handicap bet at -2 or -3, it starts to make the game really, really difficult for the team you're backing.
Although I think the -2 for City would be safe against Burnley, would it?
Should be. It's Turf Moor though, so they're going to.
No, it's at the Etihad.
Oh, it's at the Etihad. It's at the Etihad. It should be. -2 should be a stitch up, shouldn't it? Really.
Yeah. Although having said that, they probably have more fans if it was at Burnley. Just putting that out.
Certainly be more fans in the stadium anyway, won't there?
Yeah, we picked out a few player ones as well.
Yes.
The big boy Virgil is on form at the moment. I think he scored for Holland, didn't he?
He did get one for Holland, yeah.
Yeah, for Holland. So Virgil to score at any time is 11-2.
Right.
Which could be a nice bet against Watford with a set piece.
I do like maybe picking 3 or 4 anytime goal scorers, and maybe throwing a tenner on that as part of me Saturday afternoon. Because again, you can get an awful lot of mileage out of it. You know what I mean? Like if you were picking certain players and like listen, Bruno Fernandes, he's going to play 90 minutes more than he's not going to play 90 minutes. So if you've got him in that. Albeit for Bruno, the price probably wouldn't be super. But if you're adding him in with a couple of other players, again, that play the likes of 90 minutes all the time, regularly.
You can rack up a nice Aka.
Yeah, and you can get a nice bit of mileage out of it because it's only a little. You only need one in 90th minutes sometimes to just get that bet up and you just think, that was a lovely little, that was a lovely little accumulator.
Yeah. Same price, 11-2, same game. Robbo to be booked.
To be booked?
To be booked. 11-2.
And I think that's a great bet because obviously he's coming up face to face against the Boysar.
Now, I have your banker. I picked out your banker today, especially for you because I knew you'd be coming on. This is your banker. You can bet the farm on this, and I know you will.
Right.
Rudiger to be booked.
In Chelsea and Brentford? Yeah, I'd say himself and
4-1.
I think himself and Andy Robertson's a smashing little double there, 4-1 and 9-2.
I think Rudiger to be booked against Brentford is 4-1 is money. That'd
pay over 20-1 as a double, man. That's a beautiful little double for a quid, and there you go, as well. That's something else I would get involved in a little bit. Is the booking market, where you pick 2 or 3 players and you just think he's definitely getting booked, Luke Shaw is always a model for United because he likes a tackle, he just likes a tackle. Rudiger, absolutely. I just think I think he has that mistake in him. I know there's a lot of you guys think he's a serious footballer, and I don't necessarily doubt how good he is, but I just think he has a really big clanger in him every now and again,
Yeah, absolutely. Those boys up front for Brentford could tease him a little bit, let's say, yeah.
Yeah, they could, and that's something obviously we talked about when Liverpool played against them, having to go up against the 2, because most teams now play 1 up front, and maybe there's guys coming in from the wings or stuff like that, or from the sides, but playing against 2 actual out-and-outs will be difficult for Chelsea and really test and see how good they are at the back there.
Yeah, you're always lucky. You're always liable to get a booking as well when you play counter-attack football, don't you? Because they always like to tear the guy down on the break and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Which normally bangs a yellow nearly straight away. So, I like to look at that 4-1. Ian would be all over that. He'd even like that. I mean, Ian would be disappointed if Rudiger wasn't taking a card.
Wasn't booked. Yeah, exactly.
I did another goal scorer any time. I picked out Mo Salah. Of course, I mean, Mo Salah, anytime goals.
Mo's on fire, isn't he?
Banker these days, without a doubt.
On fire, Mo.
Big Romelu Lukaku.
Yeah.
Mikel Antonio for West Ham.
Mikel Antonio, West Ham, yeah.
Jamie Vardy, the Jamie Vardy party at the King Power.
Is that with the head or with the heart?
Both.
Both, right.
Both. They like falling in love with each other.
Right.
And Harry Kane to spoil the Newcastle party.
What's that paying? Anytime? Yeah.
What would you say it's paying?
Kane should be somewhere close to evens. 1-1, 2. Probably Lukaku's probably 6-4, 2-5. Vardy's probably slightly better than that, maybe 2-1, 5-10s. Who else? We got Salah. He's going to be probably evens, 10s, 20s, and who was the last one? Antonio would be good price. Let's say I was playing close to about 50-1.
45-1.
Was all right, that wasn't it? Did well there, Noel, didn't I? Were you impressed with that?
Honest, Matt, I'm very impressed.
Yeah, did all right there. Yeah, that's a savage bet, man. That's a savage bet, and there's loads of mileage in that,
It's not a fun one.
And if you can tick off your 3 o'clocks, it drags it into Sunday. And you've the excitement of waking up Sunday morning, like going, 2-goal scorers for, 450 notes. Lovely.
Absolutely.
Lovely. I like that now, I have to say.
Now, Mark, as always, our resident referee, always sends in a bet, and he's been knocking it out of the park on Beat the Bookie. I think he sent in 5 at this stage, and out of 5, he's gotten 3. So he's
okay. So Mark's one to watch, is he?
He's definitely one to follow on this show without a shot.
Okay.
So he went for Danny Ings, Phil Foden, and the boy Armstrong off Southampton, all to score anytime. 10-1.
Right. Is that all that pays?
Yeah,
that's short enough, man.
I'd imagine Ings and Foden would be short enough, and Armstrong would be.
Ings is home against Wolves, so Ings anytime is probably about 6-4. So you're at about 2.5 then. 2.5. Foden should probably at home against Bourne. He's probably 2s. So 2.5, you're 5s. And then you're probably talking the boy Armstrong at home as well against Leeds. You're probably talking 2s, 5s, 10s. So yeah, it's probably close enough to being right, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's a nice bet though. Again, nice bet. I like that, I have to say.
Absolutely. So that rounds out our picks for this week.
Well, rounds out your picks. I have a couple of picks myself,
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I don't have prices on these now. It was a little late coming to the party, but I have a couple of little ones here. So I'm gonna go for Liverpool, Watford. I'm gonna go for United and Leicester, and I'm gonna go for Chelsea and Brentford. Yeah, and I'm gonna go both teams to score in all 3 games. Yeah, and I'm gonna go Liverpool, Chelsea, and a draw in the United Leicester game. So that's 6 teams to score, and Liverpool, Chelsea, and then a draw in the United Leicester game. That should pay good money. That should be paying. That should be paying trees in the Chelsea game, probably away at Brentford. Maybe 2s in the Liverpool, and maybe the draw in the United one, probably 4s. That should be paying. That could pay 20-1. Could pay 20-1.
Absolutely.
On a little treble, and I think very, very feasible. Getting goals for all 6 teams. Ranieri obviously in at Watford now. I think they'll have that new manager bounce, which might cause you guys a little bit of trouble and might be enough to get a goal for them. I think Brentford will be very plucky, and they'll work with their socks off and they'll create chances against Chelsea, and I think they'll take 1. And I think the United Leicester game, I think, is going to be going to be the toughest one to get a result right in. But I think a draw sounds fair enough for me, with both teams scoring a 1-1 or a 2-2 or something like that.
Yeah, draw there would be big trouble for Ollie, wouldn't
it? It depends, and I suppose a draw wouldn't be ideal. If you look at it as a one-off game, you're going away to Leicester. Brendan Rodgers are a decent enough side, albeit they're not in amazing form. If you dropped a couple of points going to Leicester, would it be a big deal? I don't think in general it would be a big issue. I think the issue is more the run we're on at the minute and how things are going, and obviously we've got Atalanta on Wednesday night in the Champions League as well. And then we've got Liverpool next on the following Sunday.
Yeah, you're gonna get nothing out of that.
Possibly. So yeah, like what's a good week for United? Beat Leicester, beat Atalanta, get a draw against Liverpool. Is that a good week? I think that's a pretty good week, if I'm honest, man.
That'd be massive.
I think that'd be huge. I think Ollie needs it. I think that for me the problem is I could probably see a draw with Leicester, a win against Atalanta, and a defeat to Liverpool. And instead of your 7, you're left with 4, so to speak, in a point situation. And again, that's 1 point out of 2 games in the league, and maybe you got your win in the Champions League, which might be enough to have them keep the spot for another week or 2.
Yeah, absolutely. Interesting call, though.
Interesting.
Pick anything else?
Yeah, I do. Obviously, I have a little bit of a double. I think it's going to be a tough one to get up, but I just think it'll pay good money. And I know they're local rivals, so I'm going for a little away double with Palace and Brighton. it's a local derby, Palace and Brighton, you know, and I'm gonna go Palace and Brighton, in the away doubles. You could possibly throw in the both teams to score there, but I'm gonna go Palace and Brighton. Now again, I fancy Brighton. I don't see Brighton being beaten really. But obviously
would you go both teams to score with it? Norwich? Can't see Norwich getting that in there. They're brutal.
They are, but they cannot at home. They can be a little bit dicey and pick up a goal or two. And I think Bookie got another couple on the international break with Finland, didn't he? And you know, just when you have a striker in form, could be a penalty, could be something silly, could be a handball.
Brighton are set up so well, though, aren't they?
They're set up very well. We're massive fans of Graham Potter, aren't we? And I've got to say, and we've spoken about it before, how well has Shane Duffy done? As Premier League footballers go, he was completely dead in the water, like absolutely dead. He'd gone to Celtic, and he might as well have been playing for Sword Celtic. He was so bad. He was absolutely shocking up there. And he's come back to Brighton. He's obviously knuckled down and cut out a load of the off-field antics, maybe, let's say. And for club and country, he's been absolutely phenomenal. So big shout out to Shane Duffy. Absolutely phenomenal form so far this season for both club and country. And just shows, you know, when things aren't going your way, what do? You fucking knuckle down and work a bit harder and stop pissing and moaning about things, you know, because we bring a lot of this trouble on ourselves. So you just got to fight you got to pick up that shovel and start fucking digging and get yourself out of a hole rather than looking over your shoulder and thinking, is there anyone going to give me a hand here?
Nothing like going up north to play football to teach you a lesson about what you've missed.
Absolutely. And I mean, like, you're going up there and he's playing on these plastic pitches in shitty weather with poxy fans, and he probably went, you know what, I'd much prefer to stay in Brighton and actually pull me way here than this shite, you know what I mean? Like, the standard of football up in Scotland is absolutely horrific. And if you think of it from I know I've heard Neil Lennon and lots of different Celtic lads saying, like, the abuse that you receive is just nothing like you could ever imagine, you know. I think I heard Lennon saying he was in a restaurant one night and he was sitting at the window with his wife, and somebody literally just started pissing on the window, you know, a Rangers fan obviously, and just whipped out their, you know what, and started whittling on the window as him and his missus are having their tiramisu. Like, that's just fucking, like, you know, there's no place for that. Like, and surely to God, I'd say you're right. I'd say Duffy got up there and went, you know what, man, this place is an absolute hovel. Like, you know, most of their fucking parents and brothers and sisters, I could do it staying in Brighton and playing with a bit of football here, like, you know. Fuck that.
Just imagine, yeah, absolutely. Any other picks?
I'll do one more. Yeah, I'm going to go one more.
Yeah.
And it's going to be my goal scorer. My goal scorer best. I have 4 goal scorers. And I'm hoping that we can get any times on these, yeah. So obviously I've got to start there with the man, the original CR7. You know, we're not talking about Callum Robinson. We're in for Cristiano Ronaldo. So Chris away at Leicester any times, probably about 6-4, I would imagine, or somewhere like that. Yeah. I'm gonna actually throw in, rather than Salah, I'm gonna throw in Mane. Because I think Mane, we gave him a bit of stick over the last few weeks, but he's started to come a little bit good for Liverpool, hasn't he? And I know Jota's injured this week, so he's not going to play. So you'll probably have the 3 boys back at top. No, Firmino.
Jota's all right. He was declared okay today.
Oh, was he? Okay. Well, I suppose being okay and maybe being good enough to start might be 2 different things. And so yeah, I would expect probably Firmino to start from the off. And I think bringing the 3 boys back together, I think Mane is going to get the band back together and get on the score sheet there at Watford. So I'm going to go for Ronaldo and Mane. And I am going to top them off with Jack Grealish, because I think he was absolutely robbed the other night on the England game. He was comfortably the best player on the pitch and he got hooked. And I could see him looking, go, is this all right? Like, what happened there in the game against Hungary?
There was definitely a bunch of other names should have been hooked way before him.
Oh my God. He, like, you know, we were massive fans of Jack Grealish, you know, really, really big, even though he's shat in our country, like, but he was a serious footballer and he was having a great game the other night, and all of a sudden his number got put up, and I could see one of them moments thinking, did that just happen? Did he just put my number up, you know? So I'm going to back Jack to bounce back this weekend. So that'll bring us to Ronaldo. That'll bring us to Grealish and Mane. And my last one, I'm a massive, massive fan of this guy, Rafinha. I just think he's an absolute baller. Love the kid, really, really love him. And I think, I know Bamford's been injured for Leeds recently, and when he's been out, like, I think Rafinha's kind of had to take a little bit of the slack going forward and try and obviously score for them, you know. Yeah. So I'm going to go for Rafinha. I'm going to go with Sadio Mane, Cristiano Ronaldo, and Jack Grealish, and that is my anytime goal scorer bet for the weekend.
So that'd be a big price as well, would it? 45, 50 to 1 as well, I'd say.
I'd say we're talking 6 to 4 for Ronaldo, maybe 2s for Mane. Grealish, again, probably only 2s because they're home against Burnley. And who was the last one then? Rafinha should be all right. They're away to Southampton, if I'm right, so he might be 7 to 2. You should get 5, 6, 7. You should get about 20s maybe. You get 20s in the round. I take it. Oh, yeah. There's no bad price winners. Don't forget that. Yeah. They're only bad price losers.
Even money is a great bet when you're short of a few bob.
Do you know what I mean? Big time.
Absolutely.
What's the biggest bet you've ever had?
God, I don't know. I got a knacker up one time. I was waiting on Cardiff. They were playing the evening game against Spurs.
Right.
Cardiff beat Spurs. I think they beat them 2-1 or 3-2 or something like that. And Cardiff got the bet up, and we won about, I think it was about 12 or 1300 off a dirt cheap bet. Now this bet was like €4 or something, €4 whacker or something like that.
When you say we, and you're talking about really small bets and coins like that, was this you and Craig or what?
No. That was me, and it was me and another lad who used to work with me in the shop, and we always used to split the bets if we got them up. So he toddled in Monday morning. He got his half, and off he went, and he bought the new Xbox and everything. He was absolutely delighted. You know what I mean?
Lovely.
Yeah, so I think it was about 12 or 1300 quid or something like that. And I think got about 650 each off it or something like that. So it was a nice bet, you know.
Nothing better. That's peachy, isn't it?
Yeah, I remember when I was a kid, I used to go greyhound racing with my dad. My dad used to race a few dogs, and I remember he did a reverse forecast on the tote back in the day. Remember when they used to give you the tickets out of the silver machines?
Yeah, they did.
And this is when the Dogs Now wasn't the luxury restaurant and grandstand it is. This is when it
was freezing cold, and you were standing outside in the terrace.
The steps, yeah, and there was a lot of lads sitting around the Crombies drinking whiskey to stay warm. But he did a reverse forecast on it was the last race, I think, of the evening, and he gave me the tickets because kids could bet on the tote then and all. It was a bit of fun. And he handed me the tickets to mine, and the reverse forecast came in, and I think he had done it for about, trying to think now, I know there was about, I think he did it for about 50 quid or something like that, and it came up, it was like 50 to 1 or something like that. It was something ridiculous. And
right.
It paid like, what was it, like $2,500 or whatever it was, you know what I mean?
But back in the day, that was big money, man.
So he says to me, that won, and I was toddling off to collect it. The next thing I see him running after me down to the tote underneath the grandstand. Now, this was back in the 80s. Like $2,500 was a wedge back in the 80s.
Absolutely, it was.
And he says to me, "Come here, son." He says, "I want to get you something. Just give me those tickets and I'll get that sorted." And he went in and he collected the money. And I remember he gave me a few bob over, and I was chuffed going home. And this is when the notes, remember the old notes?
The like, big ones.
They wouldn't even fit in the
They're like A4 paper pages going into your bleeding wallet.
And I remember he picked up the $2,500 and he gave me a nice few bob over, and we went home, and we always used to get a chipper on the way home and all that kind of stuff. But good memories, like. But that was a big one back in the day. But I remember my dad loved to bets because he had race horses as well, and he used to come on bets and stuff like that and all. And he won a nice few bob during his time. You know, proper money. You know, that kind of way.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be unusual for the old man to head down to collect an Elbet and Ladbrokes and Dundrum there for 15, 20, 25, 30 grand. Like. Decent.
Wow.
Yeah. To the point where they didn't like him too much.
I've heard of a few boys having their accounts suspended.
Yeah. With
Paddy Power and stuff because they've been picking up too much money.
He used to send the ma in to put the bets on after a while.
Right.
He wouldn't stroll on himself.
I work in Rathout, which is quite close, obviously, to Fairyhouse Racecourse. And it's a little bit like horsey country. You know, a lot of horses out there, a lot of stables, a lot of jockeys, a lot of owners, lots of stuff going on. And I used to have an out bet in a small kind of a country bookmakers, you know. But you'd see guys coming in every now and again, and they'd say to your run behind the counter because they couldn't maybe see the screens with the glasses or whatever. But they say, "What price is such and such at, you know, in the 620 at Fairyhouse or whatever?" And you'd be thinking, you'd be all of a sudden your neck would be gone rotate. You'd be like, "What's going on here?" You know. And
someone's heard something.
Someone's heard a whisper here somewhere, and you kind of be like, and I'd look, I knew the girl at the counter, you know, and I'd say to her, now she wouldn't give you any info, you know. I'd say, "Put a few pound on that, didn't she?" She'd say, couple of quid like that, you know, like that, you know. How much do you put on? I can't tell you, you know, and she wouldn't tell you, you know, but you'd know straight away he's after having a wedge on that. So I'd be fucking, give me that ducat, and I'd be scribbling down behind and throwing my own little 50 on it and that, you know. And you'd look then, maybe might be 10s, 12s to 1, and it'd hack up. You know, it's mad. There's nothing better than, I know obviously Greg has given us a couple of winners recently with the horses as well, but there's nothing better. We had a funny little story here before we finished. We did myself and my mother-in-law, we use the same accountants. We both own our own business and we use the same accountant, this guy up in Drogheda. And he's big into the horses. A couple of years ago, Cheltenham was on, and we had arranged meetings for the same day because we were going to travel up together. And I said, "You go in first and see him, and then I'll go in later and see him," and blah, blah, blah. So that was grand. And she was walking out, and she was fairly brazen, the mother-in-law, you know, and she turned around, she says, "See, Cheltenham's on today. Any tips?" You know, and I'm like, "There's no tips going around with Cheltenham, missus. Are you all right?" You know, like this. And he says, "Yeah." He says, "Actually, I do have a tip for today." And he said, "It's such and such." And he wrote it down for and all, you know. So I went in, I had me meeting with him, and that was grand, whatever. And it was, you know, I owed him a few pounds. And I says, "Yeah, listen, I'll get that off to you next week or whatever." So I walked out, and she says, "Don't forget," she said, "we have to go to the bookies." And I says, "The bookies for what?" And she says, "Well, he gave me that tip." And I'm thinking, you hounded him for this tip. It wasn't he gave it to you willingly? Like, so I says, "Come on, we walked down the road. We were on the way to the car, and of course we got past the bookies, and she says, "You go in and have a look, will you?" So I went in and I had a little route around. I popped my head back out the door. I says, "It's 8-1." And she says to me, "Stick 50 each way in it for me, will you?" And I'm like, "You're putting 100 notes on this horse. Like, he's only, you know, he's giving you something to shut you up." It didn't win. It coasted. I think I had drinks coming around the top bend. It was so far ahead. And I was like, "What's the story though?" Thankfully, when I said, "You know what, this I'm going to win a few pounds off this," I says, "I better get something on myself." So I matched her 50 with my own 50 each way, and we won a few pounds. And actually, I ended up paying me accountant's bill out of the tip he'd given us.
Happy days. Yeah.
So it was.
I was thinking,
it was a little.
You were looking at the man saying 50 on each way. You were thinking you must have had a better meeting than I did.
Right. I'm thinking this is. So when she put I says to me, I text my wife, I says, "She's putting 50 quid each way on a horse here that the accountant at the telling her." My wife was like, "You better match that just in case, like, you know what this happens." Like, so I matched it, and I actually we literally took cash out of the bookies, and I ran back down the road, and I says, "I'm getting rid of this down my pocket. I'm paying this bill, because at least then I'm not worried about in 2-3 weeks." You know yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it was great.
I'll finish off with a little story for you. My dad also used to race dogs over in England, around Birmingham and Wolverhampton, where dog racing is huge.
It's funny, I know a couple of dogs from around that neck of the woods as well.
But the first time I was ever on a plane, he brought me over to Wolverhampton, and we were going over, and I said to him, "What we're going over for?" And we were staying on a farm where the dogs were, and they were putting us up, and he was over there to earn a few bob. And he said to me going over on the plane, I said to him, "What are you going over for?" He says, "Son," he says, "I'm going over to do in 3 days what most lads have to graft for 1.5 years. He says, "And that's all I'm telling you."
Lovely.
And all I remember coming home on the plane, it was the year of the World Cup. I think it was 82, was it?
World Cup in 82, all right. 98, 86 and 82.
I was only 10 at the time.
Right.
And I remember coming home we were coming home on the plane, and I was sitting on the plane like that, and I had 2 big trophies, because if you know anything about greyhound racing, they always do deadly trophies. They're huge.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
Not as big now as the golf trophies out in Dubai and stuff like that.
No, you're not getting that clam with the pearl inside it, but it's still decent enough. Like,
but I remember 3 of the dogs won that week, and he won serious money on them. He was bringing a lot of money home, and I was sitting in the plane, and the plane was kind of empty. And this is when it was really expensive to fly and stuff like that. So on one side of me, I had one big trophy called the Wolverhampton Chase, where one of the dogs had won the chase. It was a big gold cup. Actually looked like nearly looked like the British Open trophy, but in gold,
right,
with greyhounds on the top and stuff. And the other one was 2 other small trophies, smaller ones, that he had won at the Wolverhampton track as well. But he cleaned up that week, made serious money, and we went home after a week. We had a serious amount of money, and we had 3 trophies. I'm not seeing I find them. I don't know where they are. Must dig them out. System must have them somewhere. But that was 1982, and that was the first time I was ever on a plane. I was 10, and we flew over to Birmingham for a week, and he basically did a week's work and came home.
Did a week's work and came home with a year's money. Tell you, it's a nice way to have it, isn't it?
Yeah, but he was always checking that out. We hopefully used to love the guy who he was over there with was a big time gambler in the UK, and he used to study the form and everything. He was like, this guy used to earn serious money every week, all the time. And he used to follow him and stuff like that. I remember they'd be ringing each other all the time, and they'd hopefully be talking in the hall, on the old phones where you couldn't build flexi cord and all.
Yeah.
And like, this is when you were ringing England and all. This was big. This was huge back then.
Yeah.
And I remember they'd be talking for ages on the phone, and the man be giving them guff, saying, "You're ringing England there, get off that the phone bill," and all this kind of thing. And he'd be going, "Will you ever shut up? Or I can serious money this week," and all this kind of thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But yeah, he was always he always loved an L flutter and an L gamble and all. I remember another small story. He was in I think it was either Shelbourne Park or Harold's Cross. I have 2 stories to finish out actually. One is we were in Shelbourne one night, and he had put a lot of money on a dog, and the dog was winning coming off the last bend, and he was jumping up and down that this dog was going to win. He was going to earn a right few quid, and some kid came up out of nowhere on the railings and went, "Yeah," and scared the bollocks out of the dog, and the dog
God,
and shit himself, and the outfit went running down to see what the fuck had happened, right? And he fell down. Remember the old steps that used to go down to the boat?
He nosedived.
He didn't nosedive. He went over on his ankle and shattered his ankle. And he was sitting at the end of the steps with a shattered ankle. Thought he was probably going to pick up about 8 or 10 grand. And he picked up nothing. Only a shattered ankle.
Picked up a pen in the bleeding leg, didn't he?
Yeah. He was actually the first man as well. Here's a little story for you. Now it's like a little look back. This is one we're going to do for our drive trails, I'd say.
Absolutely.
He was they used to trial dogs. Remember, they used to train them where you could go and run them on the track during the day.
Yes.
And he had a big, huge brindle and white dog. This dog was a monster, and it was a big, big dog. And he was training them over at Harold's Cross. And there was a wire sticking out on the track. A wire was sticking out onto the track from the inner fence. And the dog came flying around the bend. And the wire caught him there in the chest and ripped his whole insides out. The dog died instantly on the track.
Whoa.
He was the first man to take a case against the Greyhound Board and win it in court to get repaid over the dog. That was back in the 80s.
Jesus, that was a hard one to watch, I bet.
I wasn't there that day, thank God.
Oh, man.
It was a tough one, but he was the first one, yeah.
Jesus, I'm thinking of that and I'm grimacing, man. I have to be honest with you.
Yeah, the wire cut the dog right in the chest and just ripped its whole insides out, like there and then on the track. Yeah, I'd say it was horrific. And this was I remember him always telling me about this dog, and I remember saying he was for a greyhound, he was a huge dog, big brindle and white dog, huge, well put together, really muscly and stuff like that and all,
Kind of like myself now.
As a kid, I never got that smell of boiled mince out of my nose. That's what he used to think. It was mad. All
the lads are munching on boiled mince.
Tell you, big time.
Quality.
A pleasure. This has been a real good episode. Really.
As always, man.
Stories. Pleasure as always. As always, head over to YouTube, Dynamo Podcast Network. This has been your Beat the Bookie show. We hope you have a fantastic weekend. Premier League is back. Make a few bob. Do us proud. and we will see you again next
bend that Bookie over and spank him. Bend him over and absolutely spank him. Give him the right hand, and when he's had enough of that, give him the left.
Bend it like Beckham.
That's it.